Right now, as you're lying in bed scrolling your phone with the lights off, a floorboard creaks. Your heart jumps. You laugh it off. Old house, right? But imagine if that sound wasn't just the house. Imagine it was something that followed you home from the grave. 50,000 years ago, you weren't scrolling. You were huddled in a pitch-black cave with nothing but a flickering fire between you and total darkness. And the answer to whether ancient humans feared ghosts? It changes everything about how we see our own fears today. Picture it. You're a young hunter in the Ice Age. Your father just died on a mammoth hunt, gored right in front of you. The clan doesn't just drag the body outside and forget it. No. They gather around the fire, faces painted with red ochre, and they start digging. This wasn't random. This was ritual. And here's what's fascinating. They placed tools in his hands, scattered flowers around his head, and smeared his body with that same blood-red earth. Why? Because they believed his spirit was still watching, still hungry, still dangerous if they got it wrong. But here's the part nobody talks about. These weren't just modern humans doing this. Neanderthals, your cousins, were burying their dead with grave goods 50 to 80,000 years ago at Shanidar Cave in Iraq. One body, nicknamed the Flower Man, was found covered in pollen from medicinal plants. Scientists once thought it was an accident. Now, they know better. Those flowers were deliberate, a farewell gift to the spirit world. This wasn't kindness. It was insurance. You see, your prehistoric self lived in a world soaked in spirits. Every rustle in the tall grass, every sudden gust of wind, every shadow dancing on the cave wall, your brain's hyperactive agency detector screamed the same thing. Something invisible is here. Scientists call it the caveman instinct, hardwired from 2 million years of dodging predators in the dark. That same wiring made you see ghosts everywhere. And here's the first big twist. It wasn't just fear. It was a full-blown belief system called animism, the oldest religion on Earth. Studies of modern hunter-gatherers, who live the closest to how your ancestors did, show animism was already locked in before we even left Africa. Every rock, every river, every dead animal had a spirit. And the spirits of your own dead? They were the most powerful of all. Helpful if you honored them, deadly if you didn't. So what did you actually do when someone died? Fast list, because this happened quick and it happened often. 1. Smear the body in red ochre, the color of blood and life force, so the spirit could travel safely. 2. Place tools, spears, even a child's favorite toy carved from bone. 3. Sometimes pin the body down with heavy stones. Yeah, necrophobia was real. You didn't want that thing crawling back out. 4. Sing, chant, and burn special herbs while a shaman slipped into trance and painted the walls. Those famous cave paintings at Lascaux and Chauvet? Not decoration. They were spirit portals. Half-man, half-beast figures, therianthropes, show the shaman crossing over to negotiate with the dead. But here's what's fascinating. Your ancestors didn't just fear ghosts, they needed them. A restless spirit could ruin a hunt, bring sickness, or curse the whole clan. But a happy ancestor spirit? It could guide you to water in a drought, or warn you when wolves were circling. So you talked to them, every single day. The shaman would enter the spirit world through drumming, fasting, or hallucinogenic plants, then come back with messages that kept the group alive. This wasn't superstition. This was survival technology. Quick facts that blow your mind. Upper Paleolithic burials at Sungir in Russia 34,000 years ago. A grown man and 2 boys laid out in a grave packed with 13,000 hand-carved mammoth ivory beads, hundreds of fox teeth, spears, figurines. Archaeologists calculated those beads alone took 2,500 hours of work. That's a full year of someone's life just to send them off right. Why go to that trouble unless you were terrified of what happens if you don't? And the second twist nobody sees coming? Neanderthals were doing symbolic burials before we even arrived in Europe. At Kabara Cave, a Neanderthal skeleton was found with a red deer antler placed carefully on its chest. At Cima de los Huesos in Spain, 400,000 years ago, Bodies were deliberately dropped into a deep pit with a single, beautiful hand axe left as an offering. 400,000 years. That's before Homo sapiens even existed as a species. Your ancient relatives weren't cavemen grunting in the dirt. They were having full spiritual crises about death. Now fast forward through the nights you spent alone on watch. The wind howls outside the cave mouth. A distant howl turns into what sounds like your dead uncle calling your name. You grip your spear tighter. Every member of the clan knew the rules. Disrespect the dead and they come back angry. Proper burial, proper offerings, proper songs. Those kept the ghosts at bay. Mess it up and you could wake up to shadows moving where nothing should move. And here's the third shocking revelation. This fear wasn't random paranoia. It was evolutionary genius. Believing in ghosts kept you vigilant. It made you care for the sick longer. It glued the group together through grief instead of letting death tear you apart. Shamans became the first psychologists, turning terror into stories that gave meaning to the dark. But the world changed. Ice melted, farms appeared, cities rose, and slowly, the spirits got quieter. We invented science, streetlights, therapy apps. We explained the creaks in the shadows. We don't smear our dead in ochre anymore. We don't carve 13,000 beads for a grave. Yet every time you feel that unexplained chill, every time a horror movie still gets you, you're hearing the echo of that 50,000-year-old voice in your head whispering, "What if they're still here?" So, what did we gain? Electric lights that banish the dark. Medicine that fights the sickness the spirits once brought. Knowledge that tells us death is just biology. But here's the powerful part nobody talks about. What did we lose? That raw, electric connection to a living, breathing spirit world. The constant wonder that every shadow might be watching. The rituals that turned grief into power. Your prehistoric self lived shorter, harder, darker lives, but never alone. Never in a universe that felt empty. Tonight, when the floor creaks again, maybe smile instead of scrolling faster. Somewhere deep in your DNA, your ancestors are still standing watch in that cave, painting the walls, singing to the dead, keeping the ghosts happy. And maybe, just maybe, they're smiling back. Because they taught us the one truth that still matters. The dark has never been empty. It's always been full of stories. And you're part of the longest one ever told.